Now, if you've ever wondered if anyone is listening into your private conversations or reading your texts, it turns out they could be, because for the first time, a telco has admitted it supplies information from its customers to European governments without any limitations at all. So what's happening here and what does it mean for you? We're joined now by Cybershack's Anthony Slater. A lot of people will be concerned about this, Anthony, and this is information about Australia that's just coming out today. What are we learning?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Vodafone have come out and they've made the announcement that a lot of information on their customers is being requested by governments, both legally and they're saying sometimes skirting around traditional laws. The report that was released was saying it was a 40,000-page report, so we're still kind of digesting it, but effectively saying that in 29 countries that it operates, a whole heap of governments, including the Australian government, are making requests for information, whether that be listening into calls or also recording this stuff called metadata. And metadata is information like where you were when you made a phone call, how long the call was, who you're calling. And I think it's kind of staggering just the scale at which these governments are requesting this information and the type of access they have. So Vodafone have said, look, you know, this is no good. We want to sort of put the brakes on this.
Yeah, well, I guess, you know, it'd be very helpful for people trying to track criminals, drug dealers, anti-terrorism information would be very easy to assemble this way. But why would a telco release this information? Is it a bad look for Vodafone, or is it for everyone? Is everyone doing it?
It absolutely is happening with everyone, is basically what they're saying. You're right, though. I mean, they've taken a bit of a risk, Vodafone, by coming out and releasing this. People might think, well, I'm on Vodafone, am I being listened to? By the sounds of things, everyone's being listened to. So Vodafone have come out and said, look, we think, sure enough, yep, there's laws that are there for a reason to stop people from, you know, committing terrorism, etc. But what they're also saying is that 6 of the countries in which they operate, the government has actually installed hardware into the network so they can listen to every phone call, every bit of information unfettered. And they're saying that this, they think, goes too far, and it's about time the governments were more transparent with the level to which they're listening in and the amount of information that they're gathering on people. So I commend Vodafone for coming out and doing this rather than just keeping quiet with the rest of, you know, most of the telcos.
So do I. It's very honest, isn't it? And Vodafone has spent a fortune improving their reach around the country as well. Now, is there any information on whether Australian customers are going to be directly affected by this? Will we ever know who's listening and who's not being listened to? Well,
it's actually pretty staggering in the report that Vodafone released. In the last year, there were 680,000 requests for what they call metadata on Australian consumers. So that means where you were when you made the phone call and how long your calls were and who to. Also, over 3,000 calls were listened to. Now, compare this to the UK, had 500,000 requests, so less than us. They've got 3 times the population. So it does sound as though the Australian government are very interested in listening to a lot of information, and whether or not, you know, they're sitting there listening to every single one of those calls, or they're doing it, you know, for persons of interests, and how much it affects the average person on the street, it's hard to say. That's what Vodafone is saying. They're saying, why don't the governments come out and release this information? Why are you leaving it up to the individual corporations to each self-report on the requests that they get? I personally agree. I think the government should come out and say, this is how much we request, this is the type of information request, you know, rather than just leaving it up to the corporations to take that risk themselves.
Yeah, I think the onus should be on the government. The whole concept of privacy is dwindling before our eyes. Thank you very much for that, Anthony.
Cheers, thank you.
Catch you soon, Deb.
Interesting stuff, Cam.